Welcome to Genuine Life Recovery. We're here to help you and your loved ones overcome addictions and other addiction-related mental health challenges. In this show, we dive into the physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual aspects of addiction, mental health, recovery, family dynamics, codependency, and more. You can listen on your favorite app or at jodystevens.org. Hey friends, and welcome back to Genuine Life Recovery. I'm so excited you're here. So we are in the midst of the Serenity Series. So what that is we look at the Serenity Prayer, right? And we apply it to various things that happen in our life, whether it be addiction, whether it be grief and codependency and things like that, which we're going to talk about today, whether it be trauma, childhood stuff that we can't change that's still impacting us today. So what is the Serenity Prayer? What does it mean? How do we surrender it to God? And how do we use this prayer in a practical way? Because when God gives us prayers, there's a practical way to understand them and apply them so that they actually produce change in our lives. And obviously the Serenity Prayer is one of those big ones that in Celebrate Recovery and everywhere we go, we say this prayer, but do we know what it means and how to use it? So I am excited to be joined by my childhood friend, and we're still friends today, Lisa Weiss Williams. And we both grew up in Alaska and Anchorage, and we spent holidays together. Our moms were the best of friends, and Lisa was a year older, so she was so old, back then. But I know, right? It's like, oh my gosh, back in high school, and we went to the same high school. I mean, everything. So I'm just so glad that the last few years we have gotten connected, and we both left the corporate grind, you a little bit before I did, and you started your own company, and you're helping people develop the income that they need and more without serving without helping other people make money, right? While we get pay cut after pay cut, right? So I think that's it in a nutshell. But so Lisa, I want to just also let you know, Lisa was on this program about a year or so ago. I think it was longer. We did Pathways to Healing, Unveiling Celebrate Recovery, and that was episode 110. So friends, I want you to go listen to that, and you can hear really more of her full story and what Celebrate Recovery is, and for those of you struggling with codependencies and stuff like that. But share briefly a bit of your story, Lisa, as it relates to codependency, to grief, to loss, because I know, when you lost your mom, that you and her were the best of friends, and that was so heartbreaking and hard for you. And then we add in kind of some of the codependency challenges that we both struggle with, and it's just a tough time, and then leaving the corporate thing, and you just had a lot going on. So welcome.
Yeah.
That was a long introduction.
Dear. So good to see you. I know. Good to see you. We always have so much fun when we're together. And, I think part of it is our history, of course. Jody's one of those people that she just will always have just a warm memory in my heart. And it's such a blessing that we've known of each other, obviously, because our mothers were literally best friends, but we kind of saw each other on Facebook for several years. I would get the Christmas card and hear about you. But then when we actually reconnected and you and Aaron came and visited that one year, a couple of years ago, and then since then we've had fun reconnecting again. But it's a beautiful timing for us to reconnect, because the Serenity Prayer has really been instrumental in my year since we last spoke.
Oh, wow.
When it comes to the, the original, exit from corporate, the timing of it was so interesting. And looking back, I now see God was all over it, because I really did get a swift kick in the pants from this corporate entity that I had literally spent, 23 years dedicating my life to them. And
Yeah.
they really had, my mother got sick, long story short, my mom got sick. I was blessed to have a lot of leave, prepared. So I went home to Alaska like 7 times in 10 months, Obviously, when you're away, your business isn't as maybe thriving as when you're there. And my numbers dropped, and literally I was put on a plan, and I was basically out the door, about a month before my mother passed away. And I look back now, I think, gosh, Lord, you were just so all over that, because I don't know if I would have left if it hadn't been for that. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
I mean, God opens these doors for us. He like flings them open, and yet we just think we need this consistent system that we're so brainwashed to accept is our reality and what we're supposed to live. So, my mom passed away, and then my best friend passed away, like literally 10 months later. So I was already pretty rocked. But then when she passed, I just knew God was telling me, there is no, we were not promised tomorrow, my dear. You know where you're going if you're not here any longer, but I want you to really make the most of what this time is, this precious time that you have, while you're here. And I knew it wasn't in this corporate construct,
Right.
And the Serenity
Right.
Prayer has been a big part of that. When I saw you last, I was pretty deep into Celebrate Recovery. I shifted the last year. I haven't been doing that in the construct of Celebrate Recovery, but I've found other avenues. I've been doing some training in prophetic heart healing and like the prophet within me, which has been really fascinating. So there's other things, that God has been doing, but that core of the Serenity Prayer is always just something that anchors me. It really does.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's been on me a lot is this concept, and I relate this to the Serenity Prayer because we tend to believe in this linear life. And if you
Yes.
watch any kind of a fun movie, are their stories linear? And my friend and I were talking about this because you and I sent you that thing where I was in the corporate world with Salem Media Group, and I still do work for
Yeah.
them, and I love them, but I had left during COVID because it was the same thing. There was shrinkage. I was making less and less, and I just found out that they sold all of the the fish stations, and so I was talking to friends there and everything, and we were talking about this linearness of the way we're taught to live. And yet, I mean, look at Apostle Paul in the Bible, shipwrecks. And, the thing of it is that life is an adventure. And if we were to surrender that 9 to 5, right? Say, God, I can't change what happened, but what is that adventure? And I think that's where we're both at is
Oh,
what is that?
absolutely.
I just think we weren't meant to live in this wake up 9 to 5, retire, all of that stuff. I think God said, hey, this life's an adventure. It's not linear. Live it,
Have you
but
ever have you ever thought about if you were reading a story to a child,
right.
like a fairy tale story, and the premise was, my daughter, you're gonna live this fabulous childhood, and then you're gonna
Right.
go to school for 4 years, right? You're going to go to school for 4 years, and then maybe 6, maybe 10, depending on what you pick. Then you're going to go get a job, and you're
Oh
going
my
to
God.
stay there for 30 or 40 years. You may or may not be appreciated where you stay, but you're going to stay there because that's what we do. And then eventually you might have enough that you can stop working and you can stay home and watch television and the news. Because
Oh
that's
my
basically I mean, imagine would that kid want to watch that, like hear that story over and would that be the story? They're like, tell it again, tell it again. Isn't it, when you
Right?
really think about it, isn't it laughable? Really, it really is
It
laughable.
is.
Now, I will say, I mean, I was a headhunter for 30 years. So I literally found people jobs for a living. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should be an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that at
Right.
all. I am saying, however, I think 90% of people probably should stay in their job. I do not think this entrepreneurial journey is for the faint of heart. However, I believe 100% of families should have more than one income, that it doesn't rely on a boss that on a whim, or a budget on a whim, that could say, you know what, we can't fit you in this year, right? Or let's think about it this way. Think about, it's funny. I talk to people in network marketing. I'm fascinated by that concept of network marketing. And I'm actually I'm enrolled in my first network marketing company. That I've always found this concept fascinating. And I believe in the concept of working with multiple hands. And I've interviewed many people in the network marketing space. And there are these limiting beliefs about that model. And yet, when you think about corporate America, it is the biggest pyramid we've ever, we've all been part of a pyramid scheme, basically,
Yeah.
And right? It's just so funny. And my point is, in corporate America, no matter how good you are, no matter how brilliant, how talented, how many ideas you have, I'm sorry, friends, there's only room for so many people at the top. That's why I believe so strongly in whatever you do, hire yourself in some capacity. You are God's best idea. You are his masterpiece, right? Why would we not hire ourselves first?
Right? Oh my gosh,
It's so
that's
funny.
so true. I love that. And I want people to have all your information because Lisa can totally help you get rolling with, if you're in that situation where a lot of us are wanting to be mobile and a lot of companies are like, everybody back to the office. And people are like, yeah, no, no.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That's going to go out real well.
Jody, this story will resonate. I was talking with a client a couple weeks ago, and she went home. During COVID, her employer kept them all home, and then gradually started saying, "Okay, why don't you work? A couple of days a week, whatever." Now they're trying to get her to go back full time. And she was remembering back when COVID first hit, and she said, I live in California, so commuting is crazy. And she hadn't really been happy in her job for a couple of years. But she thought it was because she was literally driving almost 3 hours a day. And she said, Lisa, when my commute changed from 3 hours to like my bedroom to my kitchen table, I realized, okay, this isn't about the commute, right? This is really, I just do not love what I'm doing anymore. I don't even like it, So there's so many people out there that are facing this thing. And I just tell you, if God meant for you to do something different, he would not be planting these dreams in your heart if he didn't intend to give you the tools and the people and the skills and the talents to accomplish them, right?
I absolutely agree. And part of Serenity for me is just the whole changing industry. And I'm having to learn artificial intelligence, which I love, but at the same time, it's going to it's going to really change my business as well. So, we're all kind of in this thing where I'm not saying you have to embrace everything, but we have to accept some of these changes if we want to like survive. But so I want to read the Serenity Prayer in its, all of it. And then Lisa, I just kind of want to ask you some things about how you apply that to your life. And that can be, your change of business, the grief and loss of your mom and your friend, and also just the codependency stuff that you and I have talked about, the
Yeah.
family
Oh
codependency
yeah.
stuff. So, but a lot of people don't know the whole prayer, which is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, right? Courage to change the things I can. And then the big one is the wisdom to know the difference. So let me stop there and say the difference is, God, what's mine and what's
Mm-hmm.
yours? And then it goes on living one day at a time, not living in tomorrow or yesterday, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen.
Amen.
So there's so much there
So
when
much.
you
I
really
love
look
this
at it.
series on so many levels. I love this so much. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that is in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I just want to run this by you and have you comment on the prayer in this. And it says, so it's about acceptance. And the guy in the book says, all the world was a stage, and I was its best director, right?
Mm.
If only everyone played their part, right? If
Mm-hmm.
everybody played their part, I would have no addictions. I would have no problems. I would not be angry. I would not be resentful. I would not be. So, the root of all our problems, right, is other people and what they do
As
or
other
don't do.
people.
And we cannot control them. We
Yeah.
absolutely can't. There are things we can do to change us, but then we have to leave the rest to God and figuring out what is that difference and how to stop being the director of everyone else. So what was
Yeah.
that like? That whole concept
I
for
love it.
you in
Yeah.
all of your and going back, like you went through a difficult divorce. I mean, you have had some hard knocks, my friend, and you've had to
Yeah.
really apply this, you know?
You know what's great about the Serenity Prayer for me is that it's really a roadmap to peace. It's like a
Yeah.
treasure map. You know, it really is. And one of my mantras in my life, and I didn't even realize how much it applies to the Serenity Prayer until you just were reading out loud again. Something I've heard countless times at this point in my life, starting when I was a child, when mom was in Al-Anon, you know, with dad's drinking. And that is, I take 100% responsibility 100% of the time for my life.
Wow. Yeah.
And, but what's been
Number
different
one.
this year, Jody, is that I have done it with God, not for Him. It's been a really big shift for me this year.
Yeah.
Is surrender of my business to God. God quadrupled my business this year, and He did it during a time when I was in massive transition. I left a company that I started my entrepreneurial journey with 6 years ago. I couldn't believe God was telling me to do this because I love that company. I love them. But I was determined to be obedient. And I didn't even realize, you know, that He was doing this. But he literally quadrupled our business in 2024. And what's remarkable about that when I look back is that I spent more time with Him. I spent more time with people that were spending time with Him. I think community is a big key. You know,
Yeah.
what this cross, you know, this symbolizes to me is love. This is what this cross symbolizes to me. The ultimate sacrifice of, you know, for me. And I don't think I really ever truly understood that until this year. And I don't remember a time I didn't know Jesus in my life, you know. I mean, I would get up. Remember how dark it was at home when we would wake up in the morning in those
Yeah.
dark winter days in Alaska? And,
Yes.
you know, I can't remember. There's so many times I remember it was so dark. And then Mom would be in this little corner in the house with her Bible in her lap and this little lamp, you know, and probably the beautiful lamp that your mom gave her. Remember those beautiful, like, stained glass lamps that your mom had?
Yes.
She probably still does.
Yes.
She gave my mom one, and I have this image of her.
I broke one once, and she actually cried when it broke because it was $1,000 in the 80s. I mean, anyway.
Exactly. They're
That
precious.
was before I totaled her brand new late model car. So after that, you know, the lamp was like whatever.
Right.
But anyway, I digress. Yeah, your mom was just a follower of Jesus so much, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my parents not so much. So she'd be like, Sue was like, let's talk about Jesus. And, you know, and then I completely became a Christian. And so now
Yeah.
it's an interesting, that's a whole nother dynamic. But, you know,
I know.
I mean,
I know it.
what were some of the most difficult, I don't know, like emotions and thoughts that you faced during this journey of grief, transition, change, and trying to just let go of that
Yeah.
control, like that actual process of where it's like Jacob wrestling with it's a wrestling match, right? It's we just,
Absolutely.
you know, and they call it in recovery like the nails on a, you know, we call it we're white knuckling it, right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
difference between you and the corporate world is Serenity was white knuckling it and hoping for something, whereas this is very different. How
Oh,
what was that?
it's so
What was
freeing.
the wrestling? Like
Yeah.
what was the wrestling for you? Do you know what I mean?
Well, one of the earlier wrestlings was when my husband left. My husband left when my sons were 3 and 3 months old, and
Gosh, yeah.
I remember one moment in particular. I was literally in my, you know, this big McMansion in Irvine, California, in my massive walk-in closet. Like, from the outside, you would think our life was so perfect. That's what the
Right.
world calls perfect. You know, you've made it, right? I am on my knees in this walk-in closet. My son is on the other side of the door trying to get in, and I am raging at God. What have I done? Why have you forsaken me? And I had just found out that not only was he not coming back, but he was seeing one of my best friends. And I just remember, somehow I knew that this wasn't just a fling. I knew that they were going to be together. And I remember just asking God, Lord, it's not in my possibility, my realm of possibility to handle this on my own. I need to be
Right.
released from this. And I just remember having this visceral feeling, like overcoming my body, of peace, that it was going to be okay, you know? And I truly, Jody, I mean, you know, we have one of those really remarkable miracle stories of a blended family. You know, they married each other. We both have daughters. I remarried. Our daughters call each other sisters. I just saw them for the holidays. You know, we gather, we vacation together. Our boys grew up with 4 parents. And that is not, I do not believe that would have been possible had I not had my Heavenly Father, had I not had tools
Wow.
like the Serenity Prayer to anchor me, to be my foundation. And I did also, I believe, truly get a miracle, because I was released from bitterness. I was blessed with forgiveness. And, you know, it's funny, like you know, Kurt and Caroline, they've never actually come to me and said, I'm sorry, but they live amends to me, because we do it together. We do life together, and we do it well. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of what's possible with God that you can do in a situation like this. But it's funny. I didn't realize until literally a month ago, that was actually my first leap of faith. Because up until then in my life, Jody, I pretty much had like about a perfect life as you could get. I had a fabulous upbringing. I had great friends. I actually really enjoyed high school. I wasn't one of those kids that hated it, I loved college. I married my sweetheart, I really had not faced anything difficult up until then, Right, and so It's funny that when I do face something, it's probably one of the biggest things you can face, what I mean?
Right. Well, and it's interesting because the prayer talks about that the struggles in this life, like all of that, is the pathway to peace. So, we accept the hardship, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, right? You look at that and you go, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But my favorite thing that Jesus ever said was, in this life, you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. Like that's okay. All right. But I mean, how were you able to, so then things go on and then this corporate shakeup, your mom passes away. You're looking at some of the difficulties in childhood that, the alcoholism in the family, like all of those things, and you're in the corporate world, mover and shaker, trying to change things. And in here now, we're talking about it's not about being powerless. It's about understanding, what do I have control over and what is God's, and how do I know the difference? And I'll tell you this quick story. One time I was in the shower and I felt like God was saying, you spend so much time worrying about the things you can't control that you miss the opportunity to control the things you can. And one of the reasons we don't control what we can is we're afraid. So it says, what's the difference, right? What's the difference in what's mine and what's God's? And give me the courage to make those changes, because fear is so much a part of our life that what drives addictions and dysfunctional behavior is that I'm so afraid to do anything about this that I'm going to ruminate on, Lisa doesn't like me, and then grab a resentment instead of saying, God, I don't know what to do, but maybe I'll ask Lisa if she doesn't like me. Do you see what I'm saying? So applying that to everything, how were you, is there some things in these transitions where you really kind of looked at that, or how do you explain that, and to others, how do I know the difference? Because outwardly controlling isn't just being I'm the director of life. It can also be, I'm not a controlling person, but internally I will go, that's still control. I'm still trying to control everything. So, for people listening, like that, they're in that weirdness, how do we know the difference? How does Lisa know the difference, and then get the courage to do something about what's yours and leave the rest to God, you see?
Yeah. I love this conversation you're going, this route you're going down. So first of all, I will say I was blessed with a mother that she shined optimism in the world, right? So I had, let's face it, we do have maybe a little step ahead if we have a model that shows the love of Jesus in our lives, right? Yeah. However, I have met countless people, some of the most successful people. I have millionaires and billionaires that are my personal mentors that did not start that way. In fact, that started in some of the most horrific child situations, right? So the one thing I can create some impact, but I also know that you do not have to stay that way. You don't have to limit yourself. I'll give you a very simple example, Jody. I host a lot of workshops. In fact, I'll invite all of you. Our new series in 2025 is called Kingdom is Calling, Reimagine the American Dream. So come and join us. And this is a very basic example, but it's actually quite meaningful when you think about it. So one of the things that I encourage people to do is, listen, you've signed up for this workshop. Surely there's some reason you did that. If you're not naked and you're able to be on camera, turn your dang camera on. That is 100% in our control. Imagine going to your office and your boss calls you into a big corporate room for the big corporate meeting, and you decide to put a paper bag on your head. Would you ever imagine doing that? And yet someone signs up for a workshop to actually change their lives, and they can't turn their dang cameras on. That is 100% in our control to play full out in whatever we do, right? That's a very basic example. I want to give you another example. I believe everyone should be my friend. That is my belief. In fact, I can't wait to force you to be my friend for life. You want to know why? Because I have Pocket Jesus in my life. Do you have a Pocket Jesus, by the way, Jody?
No, but please send me one.
I will send you. Actually, for those of you that are listening and you can't see, I'm holding up this little, he's probably like an inch and maybe an inch and a quarter. Pocket Jesus is my best friend. I have given a dear friend. We were on a walk on the beach about a month and a half ago, and she's one of my sisters in Christ. Every time we get together, we talk about what's God doing in your life. And I was telling her about this remarkable happening, and she's like, wait, stop. This requires a secret weapon. And she stopped. She said, Lisa, hold out your hand, close your eyes. And she placed Pocket Jesus in my hand. But she said, here's the deal. Most secret weapons, you actually want to keep it secret. You don't want to tell people about it. But this secret weapon, the more you tell people about it, the more powerful it gets in your life. Ooh, and then I opened my hand and I saw Pocket Jesus, and it made me laugh so hard. I get to help people laugh more. That's one of my goals for 2025. Pocket Jesus helps break the ice sometimes when maybe people aren't open to the good news of Jesus, right?
Right, yeah.
So what if, moving forward, friends, you just all assume everybody wants to be your friend? What if that's the one thing you change this year? Imagine looking at life through that lens. That's how Jesus looked at life.
Wow. I love that. Oh my gosh. That's good because, and I'm just about to put a thing on the recovery page about kindness because they say that kindness, has all these amazing health benefits, right? And it doesn't cost a thing. And so, I mean, that's one change because, serenity comes from believing that God's in control, right? And if he's, because if he's not in control, who's in control? It's either us or the devil, right? I mean, seriously, it's either us or someone that's not for us. And so, surrendering to God is really the first step, I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking of that, Jewel, she's from Alaska. I think she says that I got a Pocket Jesus in a cordless little bumper in the corner of my room. God.
I didn't know that. I need to find it.
I think it says that she's like, got everybody but you telling me what to do. Which I think it says, cordless Jesus. But okay,
I have a good friend that is a musician, and he just recorded Pocket Jesus. So I'll send it to you so you can hear that the new song Pocket Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so Lisa, any let's talk briefly before I let you go, because we're gonna hang up and catch up, or maybe we catch up and it'll be a behind the scenes episode. But no,
Yeah.
I know both of us were very, I did a thing on your one of your programs about the false front, the false self, the seeking approval. So for me, surrender
Yeah.
was letting go of that. And when God ripped that out of
Absolutely.
me, I thought I was going to die. Like I was actually almost suicidal when I let go
Mm-hmm.
of the false front, the false self, the me that needed approval. And I truly believe that we don't have midlife crisis. We have a time in our life where we're being shown who we are and who we're meant to be. That is really what that's all about. And so for you, it sounds like this shift was really more about you becoming who God created you to be. But the serenity piece of that is you've got to let go of the approval from others because you've got to. So for me, it was you've got to not be walking around and having everyone go, "Oh my gosh, you're Jody from the fish." Oh, all that was stripped away.
Right.
It was hard, like being treated totally differently, and it was painful letting go of that identity, right?
Yeah.
What was that like for you to just to surrender? Oh, I'm the, headhunter. I am important. And then you probably went through a time where you weren't making any money, and now you're
Oh,
like
yeah.
feeling like small. And I mean, it's hard.
Very hard, very hard. And I think to put it in perspective, I was one of the very few people in, I think, my experience now in the world actually, that was building wealth as an employee because very few people do. Most people, they're really just paycheck to paycheck when you're an employee. But I did.
Yeah.
I was top 10% in this really large firm. I was a senior partner, getting all the accolades, going on all the trips. And then, thinking I had built a level of reputation that people believed that when I did something, it was a good thing, and to
Yeah.
come into the world of entrepreneurship and really be kind of like pushed aside a little bit, like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cute, right? That's
Right?
cute. That's
Yeah.
that's so cute that you're trying to, help people build wealth differently.
Yeah,
It's so
and me it
interesting
was like
to me, that we
Jody
have
who?
this.
Like, you know what I
There's
mean?
just
Where
so
I
much
changed
about
states. I
corporate
used to
America
be
now that I
everybody
see.
knew me,
Yep, yep,
and now like
exactly.
you're a nobody, and it's hard, but we're not. Anyway,
Right.
I interrupted you, but yeah.
No, absolutely. But what's interesting is that actually was, now when I think back, and I'm still going through it, by the way, that is actually when God was really, that was my refiner's fire. That was when I was, okay, God, I felt like God was saying, you say you want this, but do you have what it takes to get through the fire to actually reap the rewards that I have planned for you? Because it requires tremendous obedience, it requires literally, like, I have retrained my brain, Jody, to think differently over the last
Yeah.
6 years, with God. But what's crazy is that the first 5 years, I did it mostly on my own abilities. What's different about this year is I've surrendered, and I've done
Yeah.
it in partnership with the Holy Spirit within me, which, I never really understood when I would see people that would, do these remarkable things, and it seemed like an overnight success. It's never overnight, right?
No,
It's never
no.
overnight. You never see all the hours of no's and crying and, like, it
Just looks like it
just
on Facebook,
tormenting
but
yourself, right? That's what you don't see that part, right? But
yeah.
what I see now is possible. If God did this in the last, year, it was actually not even a year. It was 10 months since I moved my agency to this other firm that is truly seeking God in our business. I can't wait to see what 2025 is going to bring. I mean, we just started. We're in the midst of something called the Wisdom Challenge. So we are doing a deep dive on the book of Proverbs for 31 days, and things are already breaking free just in my addition. You know, I've read Proverbs many times, but every time you read it, you're a different person, right?
Yeah.
When you're reading, at least I hope you are. That's my biggest prayer for people, is that year to year, they go into the year and they are different. They have learned something. They have changed a habit, or they've added something that will benefit. And when you talk about approval addiction, I am actually a certified approval addiction coach, because I personally had so much approval addiction in my own life. You know how it is when you're an addict. Like, the best thing to do is actually try and help other addicts, you know, and starting with ourselves. I was so addicted to what other people thought. Oh my gosh, so addicted. It was like my badge of armor. Oh, I got X amount of, you know, emails saying you're so awesome, Lisa, or, you know, bonuses that on paper say I'm a superstar, right? Taking trips to places where I got awards. Those awards mean absolutely nothing in heaven, my friends.
Yeah.
They mean absolutely nothing. My treasure now is how many pocket Jesuses I can get in people's hands. And we have a mission to empower, equip, and inspire 1 million women to hire themselves. And we're making a big impact on helping women step into their kingdom calling.
I love it. So Lisa, you know, for someone listening, just struggling with grief, with codependency, with the, you know, maybe trying to make this midlife change. You know, a lot of our listeners are women struggling with, and men. It's more like 60-40, 60 women, 40 men. But, you know, letting go of that control, like what advice would you share about finding serenity and hope, you know, through faith, you know, the way that you have done, both personally and professionally? That's the last kind of point. And then I also want you to let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say, first of all, pick up your Bible more.
Yeah.
If you aren't doing that daily, soaking time, that's one change that I really committed to this year, that I believe is one reason that obedience, really with God. So picking up your Bible more, being, you know, choosing the rooms that you're in, being careful about where you spend your time. I think, you know, you could spend an evening binge watching Netflix, or you could binge listen Jody, who is pouring belief into you, you know, and trying to help you find serenity in your life, right? You could surround yourself with people. You know, I will say, most of my friends now, they love me, but they do not get me anymore. I have stepped away from what they know and they trust and they understand, and it's scary. So, you know, if you are planning to live your life differently with the Serenity Prayer as an anchor, be ready to have some disruption from the people that you know and love, because that is not normal. So have fun being uncomfortable, right? Have fun being uncomfortable. Get in rooms that you're the dumbest person in the room, and you can learn from other people, right? And come and join us on some of our workshops. So you can find me at Lisa Williams Co. is the name of our company. If you go to the website, you can join one of our free workshops, get some time on my calendar. There's all sorts of fun things that you can do with us. So we would welcome you if you're looking for a community to get to know Jesus in a different way. And embrace the principles of entrepreneurship. We've got a lot of great resources.
Awesome. LisaWilliamsCo.com. So Lisa Williams, just like it sounds, co.com, right?
You got it. Yep.
Okay, perfect. And what I love about this, I mean, really, as it relates to applying all of this to your life, what Lisa's really saying is letting go of approval and just stepping out in faith, right? Just stepping out. And sometimes that's why we need healthy community in recovery, because doing things the way God wants us to do, like you said, is going to require some pushback. And oftentimes in recovery, our family, unfortunately, can be one of the biggest triggers. Setting boundaries with family and friends can be one of the biggest triggers. And if you do not have God and a healthy community to lean on, you're going to lean back onto what is unhealthy. And so being connected with healthy people, and God grant me the serenity to accept what I can't change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And letting go, expecting a miracle, and doing the courageous thing, which is stepping out in faith and asking for help, because that's super important. So, friends, thank you so much for being here. And Lisa, thank you for getting up in the morning and joining me for this.
It's my blessing, my friend. So good to see you.
Thank you so much, friends, for listening to Genuine Life Recovery, playing on your favorite app or on my website at jodystevens.org. It's JODIESTEVENS, jodystevens.org. There you can check out my podcast, blog, recovery coaching info, speaking, and more. Check it out.